And we are live. Hi Disha, hi Gandhali. On our Women's Day special segment by Naari at Bharat Udyog Gaurav, this is our 5th episode and we are having our 5th guest joining us. Hello everyone. Happy Women's Day to all of you. Our guest is a very interesting lady, close to 15 years of experience in HR, marketing and business functions. Her name is Gandhali Mahajan, a postgrad from SIMBI. We all call it SIMBI. You know how it is. She's worked with various MNCs like Bosch, Kimberly-Clark, Whirlpool, Sony Picture Systems is current, where she's playing the role and spearheading the HR business partnership there. She's someone who's very vocal about concepts like inclusion and diversity, and that's what we are going to dive upon today. Hereby, I welcome Gandhali. Hello, hello.
Hi, Ethel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hi, Gandhali. Can we elevate your screen a little bit?
We can. And we're having the same bit of a challenge that I cannot view you, but nonetheless, I think we'll get the show on the road though.
Oh, you
Is this
can't
okay?
see me? This is
No.
okay.
Yeah.
It's very much okay. Okay, I suggest you could join from your phone as well. Is this the iPad or the tablet that you're using?
It's the iPad.
Okay, so the technique is very simple. Take another phone, silent it and keep it on, so you feel you are not talking to a blank screen.
Right now, it seems like that. So let me do that. I just log in directly from the phone.
Else I will have to keep singing for you to feel that there's somebody around. Priya Agarwal, Myra, Preeta, Shakaya. Hello everyone. Hi, Gandhali, can you see me now? Can you see me now?
No.
Okay, so let's do one thing. I'll try to be as loud as possible, and we'll try to say this through. So let me introduce you once again. Guys, we are here with Gandhali Mahajan. She happens to be a decade and a half in HR, a SIMBI postgraduate, has worked with multinationals length and breadth. She's been and spearheading the spectrums like marketing and HR functions and talent acquisition and so on and so forth. She's also been a product head at APAC for almost 2 business divisions and grown the businesses to about 56%. Oh my God, we're talking to someone who is a go-getter. Can't wait to have more conversation to you. So Gandhali, happy Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Ethel. And wish you a very happy Women's Day and wish everybody who's watching this also very, very happy Women's Day.
Lovely to have you around. So Gandhali, help our audience understand that in HR, in marketing, How is it? I know for sure that gender neutral and gender sensitivity is always there, but where do you see women leaders and women in this spectrum?
So I'll tell you, Hetal, one thing that I genuinely admire about all the female folks that are presently in the workspace, I think it's a lot of kudos that has to be given to the generation that was there before us, because today we are actually in a much better space in terms of how it was previously, right? Like they really have done so much
Huh.
and they've given us so much voice that now it's up to us how we also generate more voice for the next upcoming generation. And I see that in the field of HR. When you see our roles, we talk to the generation up. So the women who are now in, let's say, positions of power, right? Like they are heading and spearheading HODs and our department heads. You can see that their struggle was so much different from the struggle that the younger generation's going through. Their struggles was literally breaking those glass ceilings. It was about getting that voice, getting that one position that would be opened up for them. And now what they are doing is they are creating the right conversations, and they have created those right conversations for women so that it becomes easier for women to get maybe not one particular role, but maybe open up 2 or 3 more opportunities for them. And now it's with other women also coming into those roles that they're able to step it up, they're able to prove their mettle, and now they are creating more conversations down the line, right? So what's happening is that opportunities being given, opportunities being leveraged and utilized, and now we are scaling it up. So you see the pyramid of conversations actually moving up from the previous conversations that were there. So it's a very beautiful space and journey right now we are in, but definitely more spaces to go.
Yeah,
More spaces
right.
to go.
From bottoms to top to bottom, there is good amount of succession planning happening, and this is being done in the most wisest of the manners. And unless until you encourage anybody and you leverage yourself and you move on to the another field, you can't allow anybody else to grow. So the scene is only up and above. There's nothing below. It's in that manner. So that's interesting to know from you. Women in particular, in certain functions, do you see they add more meaning, or I think it has become the border is completely gray now? I mean, it's completely blurred now. Keeping in mind that men, women, other genders, everybody is contributing towards goal.
Sorry, Hetal, I was unable to hear you in the middle. Could you repeat that point again? And my cat's also jumping on the table.
Hi, what's the name of your cat?
This is Tiger for everybody to know. He's being a bit of
Hi.
a pest at the moment.
Oh, so lovely. Okay, so the question that I was
Yeah.
raising to you was an inclusion question. People from men, women, they are at the leadership roles and they're all there. Is there a particular function or a particular work vertical where you see them very predominantly women oriented, or they have more of men over there? Is there any specific thing right now?
Yeah. I think there's a very natural tendency that has kind of happened over a period of time in the enabling functions. So you definitely do see women, much more women in the enabling functions than, let's say, more revenue-led functions, which would be your sales. Whether it's an aspect of pressure, whether it's an aspect of, some jobs are easier than others, you do see a skew. But at the same time, you kind of are seeing a lot of women and also a lot of men encouraging newer entrants and more diversity into each of the, what do you call, teams. And at the end of the day, that's also the merit of having a more well composed team, right? You don't want a skew only in one area.
Yes.
So it's also how organizations are looking at it, and they of course push a certain number saying that it should be a little balanced. But at the same time, at this moment, we do see a skew, but that skew is also slowly, steadily changing with the number of intakes that are happening. So in the long run, you'll kind of see it even out. And you also find a lot of women now wanting to get into more high pressure roles because that's the place where they want to move themselves as well.
That's so true. In HRBP function, you have a lot of HR analytics coming in, and there is a lot of performance matrices which take place. How do women fight it out there? Do they break ceilings?
Sorry, you have to repeat that question once more.
In in performance matrices and in HR analytics, you see a lot of women breaking the ceilings, right? Are they really head bent? Are they really strong enough to conquer and then ensure that, yes, my performance is the best? Get me the HOD, get me the director role.
Yeah. I think we see that quite often. We do. And I'll also share a very interesting perspective with you. So there is a lot of myth around the fact that, in the boardrooms and especially in the HR discussions, that there's a percentage of promotions for women that are put out. While there is a cut that's kind of looked at it, but there's never a push that happens unless and until it's meritorious. So what is now happening is that you are having more conversations around it, because see, it's a very natural thing, right? At the end of the day, if all the HODs are men, it's a very typical thing that you're going to appreciate certain strengths that only men have. It's a very natural thing. There's nothing against it. It's a very natural thing that happens. So what happens is your nomination automatically comes for them only, because those are the strengths that are getting appreciated. But at the same time, in the conversations, if you bring out a conversation around a particular person's strength and whether that strength helps in the diversity of thought, in bringing more meritorious processes into place, into bringing more creative processes into place, or creativity of how you want to do and look at a thing, then that's the idea of bringing more women into that team leader position. And that's the conversation that is actually getting driven in those boardrooms. So coming back to your point, do women ask for it? Definitely you see a shift. But I was more alluding to the boardroom conversations, which is the belief that, oh, there's a number and there's a target that people have and they're trying to push those targets. That's not the case. The conversation is getting driven, but it's only getting granted when a person has actually is meritorious enough to get it.
Lovely. Interesting to know that MNCs, not only MNCs, other companies are also doing so.
Yeah.
Could you cite any
In fact, I'll tell you something. In one of my organizations, I remember that I got one of the elevated positions very fast and very early on in my career. And I remember my everybody around me was, oh, this happened because she's a female. And, I got very mad about it. I said, listen, I've deserved it. I've worked really hard for it. And why shouldn't I get it? And let anybody come back and, tell that to my face. And I remember the HR folks at that time coming in and telling me, why we want you to speak about it, like come and, talk in diversity forums. You're one of our fast track candidates. Come and talk about it. And I was very averse to it. I said, listen, I don't want to be known as a diversity candidate. I want to be known only for my merit. I only want to be known for my work. And what was interesting was I actually stepped back from that. I said, I will only prove myself through my hard work, and I'll only prove myself through my merit. And I don't want to talk about diversity, and I don't want to be a part of your journey and your branding, etc. And 2, 3, 4 years later, when I actually got elevated to more senior positions and I got more purview into how, the organizations work and what, let's say, organization functions, HR functions are trying to drive, and how they are looking at equity and why they need us, people who are doing well in their roles, to really come forth and talk about it and, be those bearers of those right conversations and bring those right conversations out. That was where I then realized. So I remember in my other company, when I went there, I actually spoke of this example, saying I never understood what they wanted me to do, and why they were leveraging me was because you were fundamentally good at your work, and they wanted to leverage that. They could have more girls, looking at that, aspiring for that, and wanting to do it. I just went whole hog. I said, I don't want to be a part of your initiative. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. Don't use me as your poster girl, etc. But the idea and the reason why I'm talking about it today was I wish I had understood it back then. And to all the girls who are watching today, trust me, if people are reaching out to you, that is more so because you have merit. It's because you've earned it, and they want to give you a platform to tell your story. So you should always leverage that platform.
Fantastic. We needed that dose. It was an afternoon. Everybody's had their meals, but there is a serious conversation happening here. And I knew for sure that you are one of the guests who would not only talk about herself as a professional, as a woman, but when it comes to the HR, especially, you are somebody who's observing every single function. You have an eye on the accounts and finance, you have an eye on the sales, on the intellect, on the AI level, on the data management, on the logistics and all of it. And we absorb a lot of intel. So that's when people come and talk to us about problems. We've seen it from the top ladder, we've seen it from the bottom side, we know where the strategies have failed and where they've worked. So thank you, Gandhali. You're opening up and you're telling us exactly what's happening. So I see a variety of brands that you've been participative of and you've been working with, like Whirlpool, like Sony, like Bosch, and all of it. Principally, for anybody to be successful, what's that first thing? What's that first trait that you observe or probably you would encourage people to have?
I think positive mindset, a very uh, a solid positive mindset backed by perseverance, I think are the success traits. While a lot of obviously talent goes a long way, but talent without perseverance, because things don't come easy, you have to continuously strive for it.
Right.
A positive mindset, not to get deterred, because there are so many things that and so many challenges that are going to be out there in order for you to pursue things in the manner that you want to, right? You need to be able to continuously be at it. Like you need to be like a dog with a bone. If you genuinely believe in it, you need to keep referencing it back, and it takes time. I've seen people seed and ideas 4 5 years back, which was so ahead of the curve that they have actually been shot down multiple times at MD levels, but they've never given up. They've actually gotten those ideas. So first thing is that they've seeded those plants in, right? They've put those seeding ins. And then over a period of time, they've continuously referenced it back, continuously referenced it back. So with that perseverance, they've actually been able to establish new organizations, new entities within those large companies. They've been able to build absolute new entities out of it. But it's taken a good 4 5 years, but they've never given up. Those are the people that I've actually seen succeed, that they've continuously been at it while they've been doing other roles. But the main vision that they've had, they've never let go of that vision. And they've never let all the noise, all the sound bites, the noise that is easy for you to deter, they've never let that deter them.
So is that a certain level of a personality? Are you taking us to personality A, personality B? You and I know what it is, but let our audiences also know that there are specific personalities who fall under this particular bracket and they never give up. What is it?
And that'll be your personality A. Your personality A will always be driving for a lot of different things. There'll always be those particular personalities that are right out there, making sure that they're at it, they're absolutely going at it. But I'll tell you honestly, Hetal, in my experience and across variations, perseverance is one thing, and the positive mindset is where I've seen people just succeed and flourish in different roles. And in those aspects, you actually don't need to be a personality A or a personality B type, because those are just aspects and attitudes that you carry, which will just help you succeed in any of the roles that you're doing.
Yes, so true. So we often talk in talent acquisition and in the HR field that there are soft skills and hard skills, and hard skills can be attained, especially when you take any kind of a program or you get sponsored by the company. You
Yes.
just very mentioned right now about positive mindset, about perseverance, which comes under soft skills and all. Are there organizations like the one in which you are right now taking a step ahead, ensuring that these kind of soft skills are programmed, are punched into slab wise, to managerial cadre wise? There are different training centers. Does that happen? And is it more further evolved? If so, we would like to know more.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think in most of these organizations, particularly in MNCs, you'll always have this kind of a build that's there in terms of trainings, right?
Yeah.
And the trainings, for example, would be either on the role basis, that means on where you are presently, and this is what we will always say for career planning, where you are presently, where you want to be, there'll always be a bit of gap, right? So we'll always tell a person that, for example, if I'm at a manager position today, but my aspiration is to move to a senior manager position. So we'll always say that, there'll be a description of where you want to go. So, what is the competency? Where are you presently? Having that conversation, knowing where the gaps are. And then the whole idea is with the entire organization, what do you call being in place, there's entire competency management that is done, a competency directory that's there, where then you will be assigned those particular trainings. And nowadays, the trainings have also become very interesting because there are so many. Either you can have a training that's done in the campus itself, or you can do self-learning modules. There are LinkedIn modules, there's Udemy. There is so much plethora of knowledge out there, but the idea is how do you kind of gain that particular knowledge which is required for you to move from one level to the other level, and having those right conversations around that.
There are a lot of offsites also that happen. They have programs for 5 days and 10 days, and the entire top management is taken, the entire managerial team is taken, and then they are given the upskillings there. So yes, we see predominantly a lot of change when people come, they get trained and they uplift themselves. And it's wonderful if decision makers and top management are taking that initiative, because rather than hiring a new person, it's better to elevate the one who is showing signs. What is your take, Gandhali, on getting fresh crowd into the system, and how often should a company do that?
So a lot of the times, Hetal, and this is a very interesting question because I think one of the aspects of how we design organizations and the modus operandi in organizations go into a framework called build, buy, and borrow. And so build is always people that you're growing internally and how you're going to grow them. Borrow is always the capabilities you want to kind of get in terms of either some things which is new like AI, ML at that particular point. Then you're like, okay, we don't have time to groom them internally, so we're just going to buy them from outside or borrow the talent from outside. So your particular question, which comes in saying what is the percentage or what is the right number in an organization, gets defined by the curve that the organization would be at, build or the growth phase that it would be at. So, for example, that's when you will actually target the campuses or you'll target all your fresher talent to build that particular organization up. So, in a very mature organization, you may want to factor in about 10 to 15 kind of an MT program. But if you are actually going in for a huge change of strategy where you need much more manpower on the ground, then you may want to go in for a lower level target campus, but get much higher number, like a 20% of the population in. So it'll really change from a company to company, industry to industry strategy. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to build a solid culture and you want to make sure that you have employees in your company who are staying for the long run, then getting people from campuses is the top-notch idea because they absorb your culture like that. They are perfect fit because they mold into your own culture,
Yes.
company's culture, and they stick with you for the long run, right? And if you invest in them, they are your brand ambassadors. You actually will have the topmost top talent staying with you if you've invested them at the right time and gotten them at the right time.
Lovely. Gandhali, a typical question. A lot of people have been asking us since the time COVID has been there. Chief Happiness Officer, Happiness Manager. So HR gets a lot of nomenclatures. There are various more nomenclatures. Could you enlighten us with few more such names, vibrant names, few more such new positions which have come in, which are generally from a basic foundation point of view, very basic. But what is it? What are the new things that's happening in media and entertainment industry?
So, not just media, but I'll talk about some of the other ones also. My favorite one that's come up is there's work-life balance. Now there's a concept called work-life well-being. So, a work-life well-being officer is the latest one that's come up.
Yes, that has come up. I had seen it on LinkedIn and I scrolled down to know exactly what this person is doing and why is it so.
So the idea was that work-life balance means that there's something off balance. So we should not call it work-life balance because you are indirectly telling people, "Arey, balance hona chahiye." So we are not saying there is no disbalance, but the aspect is that now work and life are a part of the entire thing is integrated. You apparently cannot take one out of the other, and hence what they're saying is manage it well. You just need to be well-being. So work-life well-being is the new nomenclature that's come up, and which primarily talks obviously about every aspect of well-being, which is whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, for that matter. So all the aspects is what they're kind of touching upon, and what they're also looking at is how do you give people flexibility, and I think flexibility is the next thing that's kind of coming up more and more in terms of how do you allow people to, because the concept is that you are now um, talking to a population which is matured. After COVID, so many of the myths have broken that, you cannot work from home, remote working is not a possibility, etc. So many myths have broken. So how do you allow people the best of both worlds to make sure that you are getting the highest creativity or you're getting the highest output out of them? And for that particular reason, flexibility, and how do you imbibe that flexibility within the organizations, like the main conversations that have now started coming up?
Yes, that's very important. Gandhali, 15 years. There are so many policies which have come in. Sexual harassment, mental harassment, Bosch, which is your favorite. And where do you feel a lot of changes have happened with those policies? Or rather, have you came up and given some kind of a new change or a new fresh breath for any of the policies for your current organizations?
So, oh, that's such an interesting question. um, I think the one that you were saying, which policy have I really executed or let's say really enjoyed? Personally, in one of my organizations, we introduced the entire EVP, which is your employer well-being program for the company, and across the board, we actually did it saying, oh, mental health, and there was a counseling aspect to it as well. One of the myths that got broken for me was when a lot of the women from the organization picked up the phone to thank me for introducing that initiative. And they were thanking me why? Because in the counseling sessions, there was one particular session on handling teenagers. And we did
Okay.
not know that parenting, and particularly parenting of teenagers, was going to be our highest subscribed counseling session. That was such an interesting insight, because we actually thought it's well-being, right? And people are going to use it to crib about multiple different things or talk about multiple different things and managerial issues, etc. But it actually turned out to be women who landed up using it the most, and they landed up using it for advice on how to become better parents. So that was one which was a beautiful one, which was an eye opener for me. The
Wow.
second, which was an eye opening one for me, was Posh. um, and Posh become very sensitive, right? So to a lot of people who might not know, Posh is your sexual harassment policy that exists in most of the companies by the nature of the law that itself is there. And I remember there was this very, very sweet and a very novice question that a girl asked me, and I was on the investigating committee on a particular conversation. And she said, Gandhali, I know maybe we should have reported this when we had observed it, but we don't know what is the right touch. Is this right? Is this wrong? We don't know. And that was again such a eye-opening point, because we weren't taught about this in our education in our school times. That was not a part of the curriculum. It was never spoken about. It was always such a hush hush thing. And to talk about a senior of yours at work, whether this is a right touch, it's not a right touch, it's such a taboo thing. Who do you go ask? There is no one that you can turn to and really ask, right? It's such a sensitive topic. Kisse puchoge? And that's when she came up, because when we were talking to her, we like, tumne bola kyun nahi? She's like, I don't know. I don't know if this is the right thing to report. A touch from a 2 second to a 5 second to a 6 second, we don't know whether it's the right thing to call out. And it was such an eye-opening point, and it led to a whole intervention happening, whole trainings happening around it, telling them what is okay, what's not okay. But it was extremely eye-opening for us, and that's one of my favorite policies, because I think the place that you work, you should feel safe there. The day you don't feel safe there, then we are not doing our jobs right.
So rightly mentioned. So during my days, early days of management, I was going to Mahape, which was Vashi, and I used to stay at Nepensi Road, which is at South Bombay. So early morning at 7 o'clock, you end up taking a shuttle service, moving to your IT company. Now, very similar to that, I had a girl who used to engineer, young, fresher engineer who used to get inside with me into the shuttle service. And I happened to notice that in the evening, she would stop sharing her return along with us, because the shuttle services in the morning at a particular time, evening at a particular time. So I happened to ask her, she became a good acquaintance and a friend. And I said, I don't see you in the evenings, joining with us, returning home. So she happened to mention to me that a very kind boss of mine is dropping me home. So I'm like, oh, that's so nice. People are becoming gentlemen and they're doing this. Then I don't know, something happened to me, and I asked her again after a few days what's happening. So she said that, you know what, he's been so nice to me that I'm also trying to spend time with him. And I asked her, why are you spending time with him? So she said, no, he's obliging me 2 hours. He used to stay somewhere in Navi Mumbai, but he used to ensure to travel till her, drop her till Dadar. That's when I had to take her aside and explain to her that men can be gentlemen. They might show you at workspace that we are obliging you, we are becoming chivalrous towards you, and we are taking you to your home, we are dropping you and all that, but there could be a hidden agenda. You need to understand the cues, you need to be alert, you need to have that presence of mind that if your boss stays in Navi Mumbai, has an office in Navi Mumbai, but is dropping you every day to Dadar, tomorrow he will want to extend something more towards you. And the lady had already started having coffees with him. And it was very difficult for me because I was almost on a verge of losing a friend. And after 6-8 years on LinkedIn, she messages me that there's this new policy of Bosch, and I was so naive during my early days. And thank you so much for making me realize this. So this happens in the very early days of women. If they have had very good guy friends, and if they have had very good boyfriends around, they naturally would feel that all men are good and nice to me. Same is the case for women who have bumped across men who are kind of cruel, who are kind of, not chivalrous, who've been mean to them. So then they will always position another man who's having a little bit of a sign of an alpha man. They will feel, oh, this is a very dominant personality and he's going to curb me, he's going to control me, and so on and so forth. But girls, Gandhali is from HR. I've also had a stint in HR. We would just like to tell you, have slight bit of common sense. If you sense little bit also of an extra effort being made, please talk it out in your circle. You would realize there are some people who are taking that agenda. I think there have been cases where women have also been tough in the conference room and they have used it to the benefit. There were cases, I would not want to quote, but there is a very big retail brand where a lady at an assistant manager level absolutely screwed the case of a CFO, and she ensured that all the dishonest things that she was doing with the data and the number crunching that she was doing there, she turned it completely different using the Bosch policy and saying that my CFO is not having the right kind of intention towards me, and he made me do this. And the husband, the CFO, his wife, they lost the home. Their child was having confidence issues and all of it, just because of this minor thing. So it's very delicate at times, but I hope a lot of us don't fall prey to this. Just to be alert. This would be just a suggestion from our end. That's there.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Gandhali, we have spoken a lot about profession, media entertainment, HR, people, skills. I would like to know how Gandhali is personally. I saw you were having a cat around you. You were having fun with the cat. What is it as a woman that makes you elated? Because we live in metros, we live in cities, we are hard workers. So when we come back, what makes you let loose?
I think definitely playing with my cat. And apart from that, I quite enjoy reading with a nice cocktail. So so as I would say it, I'll tinker around with something or the other and make something whimsical and kind of kick back whenever I do get the time. But that's generally where I would invest my time and whenever I do get a chance. And of course, because of the profession, watching some good content.
That's lovely. So I see the size of the books are thick to smaller. I can't read that well. But which is the genre you like most in reading?
I'll either psychology or science fiction.
Wow, this is interesting. This is interesting. That's good to know. So, Gandhali, we are nearing our time to closing the segment. I would want one advice that you could give to any startup company. They might not have the budget to have a full-fledged HR resource to happen, or a vertical to start with. What are the basics that a person can start with as an entrepreneur or as an MSME, which is at a micro level? What would you tell them? Basic things to start off with and have an independent HR vertical later on.
I think the first thing is to make sure that you are getting your first line, which believes in the same values as you. So value hiring, particularly in a startup, matters a lot. And then with that second thing, what I would say is how you and empower them then to build their next line. But get the sort of people who understand your vision in a similar manner and are passionate about it, because we know people take cuts, because startup is where a lot of people, you require a lot of passionate people, and people are willing to come for cuts to startup, because at the end of the day they have a hunger for making something which is their own, to see something from scratch, to be a part of something larger, to see that come to life. So get the right people with the right hunger and the right value system as you are as a leader, and I think that startup will do fantastically well. And don't try to scale faster than it needs to scale.
Okay. Give it time, give it pace, go with
Give it
method,
time.
have the right people
Give
coming
it
in.
time.
But
Give it time.
all
All
the
good
same.
things. Rome was never built in a day.
Yeah, right. So true. So, Gandhali, wishing you once again Happy Women's Day. I really appreciate your entire time giving to us. And we are Naari here. We appreciate Bug Shiros like you. We'd love to have you more and take more further deep dive into HR, into talent acquisition. But right now we are very off time. Thank you so much to be with
Thank you
us.
so much, Chetal. It was a pleasure. I was talking to a blank screen the whole time, but but it
When
was
we'll
still
upload
such
the
a
video,
lovely
you'll be able to
conversation.
see us. Okay. Bye bye.
Thanks. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.